Hello and welcome to Cricket House Gaming. Here at Cricket House Gaming, we like to explore the gameplay of simulation games, usually through a series of Let's Plays. In this episode, we will continue to explore the gameplay of Democracy 4. Democracy 4 is a political sim that lets you choose the role of a world leader and govern a country. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, be sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here, welcome, and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. We have played the United States, we have played United Kingdom, we have played Japan, France, and we just finished 4 terms of Canada. We are going to start with Australia. Australia, the Commonwealth of Australia, is a federal parliamentary constitutional monarchy. It is comprised of the mainland Australian continent, Tasmania, and many smaller islands. A former British colony, first became a democracy in 1901. In 1902, women were given the right to vote at a federal level. Compulsory voting was introduced in 1924. In 1962, voting rights were expanded to include all Aboriginal people. The stats of Australia: the population is 25,499,884 as of 2020. The size is 7,692,024 square kilometers. Religion: none at 30.1%, Catholic at 22.6%, Anglican at 13.3%, other Christian 16.3%, Islam 2.6%. Exports are iron ore, coal, natural gas, educational related services, personal travel services, gold. The world leader, largest island, well-being of youth, member of G20, APEC, NPDI, national obsessions, informality, barbecues, private schools, and beach life. Let's start our first term as Prime Minister of Australia. For this playthrough, we'll be doing a 3-party system. The game has generated Holy Justice Alliance for our playthrough. Our opposition party number 1 is the United Right Party. Opposition party number 2 is the Anti-Corrupt Movement. We are going to change our color of our party to purple. We have compulsory voting. We're not going to force anyone to vote. Let's begin our gameplay as the Holy Justice Alliance. Congratulations on your election victory. Welcome to your new job as Prime Minister. The lives of all 25,498,000 citizens are now in your hands. As you will imagine, there are a number of situations and concerns that you will need to deal with as soon as possible while keeping an eye on long-term improvement of our citizens' quality of life. Do not forget that you face re-election in 3 years, so you will need to monitor the opinion polls and our party membership. Good luck. At the recent election, your party won the majority of 10%. This will give you some political power to implement your policies. Let's begin our term of office. We are presently in the first term of our first year as Prime Minister of Australia. It looks like we have antisocial behavior problems, we have organized crime problems, we have respiratory disease problems due to pollution, we have a food crisis, we have environmental protests, we have a water shortage, and we have an uncompetitive economy. Food crisis. Food prices have reached a critical point driven by poor farm yields and overpopulation. Somehow we need to increase food supply, reduce demand, or mitigate the impact of prices for the poorest members of society. Let's see what the religious want. Religious opinions and strength of feeling obviously varies greatly, but in general, religious voters hold a positive opinion of faith schools and religious education and will support laws that keep holy days sacred or protect the church from blasphemy. As a rule, religious voters have a negative view of abortion, stem cell research. Generally, religious views are more popular in less developed countries. They are presently moderately opposed to the government. They are 27.60% of the population. They are unhappy with the stem cell research, right to die, legalized sex work, gender transition, gay marriage, gambling. We also have a water shortage. The rise of average temperature has led to several droughts in several regions of the country. Farmers are the primary victims of this development and food prices are on the rise. We also have antisocial behavior, vandalism, public nuisance, petty street crime. These are all the results of antisocial, loutish behavior that has become commonplace in our streets, often linked to consumption of alcohol and not helped by insufficient levels of police in the street. Antisocial behavior causes stress for many of our citizens. Desalination plants. Desalination plants are a way to make water suitable for human consumption using seawater as input. Although expensive and energy intensive, it is a solution to water shortage where other methods of preventing the shortage have failed or are insufficient or unpopular. This is 39% popular with the vote. This would lower our water shortage. This would lower our energy energy efficiency. This is going to take 8 quarters to implement. Let's implement this policy. We'll increase this to high. We will apply the changes. We have 7 political capital to spend. Compulsory water meter. The installation of water meters for every household and the subsequent charging for water based on consumption is one very effective method for reducing water usage and preventing a water shortage. Although it can be a long, slow process to install meters for every house in the country. This is going to take 8 quarters to implement. This is 100% popular with the vote. It will lower our water shortage. It will improve our environment. Let us implement this policy. We are going to raise this to high. We will apply the changes. We have 1 political capital to spend. Organized crime. Large organized gangs of serious criminals are now targeting our country. We do not have the resources to deal with them. They are causing serious problems, including higher levels of street crime and violent crime, as well as supplying drugs and guns. Let us take a look at Witness Protection Program. Witness Protection Program. What good is catching a criminal if the witness to the crime disappears forever? Protecting these witnesses is of utmost importance for a working justice system. And the better it is, the more criminals get convicted and the more witnesses come forward if they see a crime. This is 50% popular with the vote. We will spend our 1 political capital. We will increase this to medium. We will apply the changes. We have 0 political capital to spend, and thus we are at the end of our first year as Prime Minister of Australia. Let's hit that button. We will now be entering the second term of our first year as Prime Minister of Australia. Let's see how we did. Debt protection law. There's an urgent policy question that requires your immediate attention. Debt collection agencies have been in the news because of the aggressive methods they are using to extract payment from people who owe large sums of money. These debt collection agencies provide credit to people whom larger than more respectable companies will not lend money. A law is proposed to limit the ways in such agencies can operate. Limit agency activity. These agencies are preying on the weakest and the poorest in our society, often tricking them into borrowing money at exorbitant rates that can never be repaid. This is little more than extortion, and the government should act at once to limit the severity of the activities of such unscrupulous companies. Allow agencies to operate. Nobody forces people to borrow money they can't repay, and to restrict the rights of debt agencies to recover legitimate debts would be counterproductive. People need to learn to live within their means and not expect the state to bail them out of trouble if they cannot learn to do so. We're going to allow the agencies to operate. The socialists are unhappy at -9%. The poor are unhappy at -6%. The self-employed are happy at +4%. The capitalists are happy at +4%. Situation imminent. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation, technological backwater on our hands if we do not act soon. Budget report. There is a budget deficit of 14.42 billion Australian dollars. We need to reduce spending or raise taxes. Polls report. The government is not popular amongst its citizens. Only 0% of them intend to vote for you in the next election. Economic forecast. Good news. The global economy is doing well, and this is having a positive effect on our GDP. Cabinet report. The loyalty of your ministers can best be described as loyal. Their effectiveness is generally considered to be passable. We have 13 political capital to spend. Gambling. To some, gambling is a sin which leads to poverty and disaster, but others believe that some social gambling is harmless fun which can be taxed nicely by the government as an additional form of revenue. It also encourages tourism and creates jobs. Gambling is 70% popular with the vote, but this is increasing our organized crime. Our religious are not happy with this. We're going to use 4 political capital to lower gambling. We are going to apply the changes. Legalize sex work. Conservatives claim that the legalization of prostitution would mark a severe decline in family values. Others claim that as prostitution is unlikely to disappear, even if illegal, it's better for society and sex workers that the practice is regulated and monitored rather than criminalized. This is 34% popular with the vote. We are the leader of the Holy Justice Alliance. The religious are unhappy with this, as are the conservatives. We are going to use 5 political capital to lower this to about medium. We will apply the changes. We have 4 political capital to spend. See if we can do anything to address the food crisis. City farms. Many people would love to buy fresh produce from farmers directly, but living in the city, this is often a hassle to drive out to the countryside. Why not bring some farmers into the city directly? This program helps ambitious farmers to establish farms in and around cities so they can be close to their customers, and will get some of the city kids to consider a career in farming. This is 100% popular with the vote. The farmers would love this. This would increase farmer membership, and this would lower our food price. This would address our food crisis. Let's implement this policy. We will raise this to high. We will apply the changes. We have 1 political capital to spend. Desalination plants. Desalination plants are a way to make water suitable for human consumption using seawater as input. Although expensive and energy intensive, It is a solution to a water shortage where other methods to prevent the shortage have failed or are insufficient or unpopular. This is 50% popular with the vote. We implemented a desalination plants in our last term. We will use one political capital to increase this to high to address our water shortage. We will apply the changes. We have zero political capital to spend, and thus we are at the end of our second term of our first year as Prime Minister of Australia. Let's hit that button. We will now be entering the third term of our first year as Prime Minister of Australia. Let's see how we did. Violent video games. There is an urgent policy question that requires your immediate attention. Concerns have been raised in the press about the impact of violent video games have on the nation's youth. Some of these games are being described as murder simulators, and links have been suggested between games and violent crime. There is a proposal to ban certain games and restrict the sale of others to those over 18 years old. Leave unchanged. There is scant hard evidence that shows any real direct link between video games and violence. In fact, there is a possibility that they act as a catharsis that even prevents young people being violent. This is a knee-jerk response from people looking for a simple solution to violence in society. Violence that existed long before the first video game was ever created. Censor games. There may be no direct proven link, but you don't have to play many of these games to see how the influence they have on impressionable young people must be having a negative impact on society. Video games are an interactive medium and are likely to have a far more direct effect on impressionable minds than passive entertainment such as books, televisions, or movies. Something needs to be done. Add warning labels. Banning is a step too far, but it's important parents have the information they need so that they can judge how suited a specific game is for their children. A system of warnings about content of the box or websites selling games should be sufficient. We will add warning labels. Parents should be able to monitor their children. Parents are happy at +4%. The youth are unhappy at -5%. Situation imminent. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation. Doctors strike on our hands if we do not act soon. Budget report. The government is currently running a deficit of 14.86 billion Australian dollars. We should take steps to reduce this. Polls report. The polls do not look good. Our last poll put us at 0% of the vote in an election. Economic forecast. Good news. The global economy is doing well, and this is having a positive effect on our GDP. Cabinet report. The loyalty of your ministers can best be described as loyal. Their effectiveness is generally considered to be passable. Security briefing. The Environmental Alliance is criticizing government policies in online forums. The Environmental Alliance is a threat level of 5. The Sustainability Trust is a threat level of 2. The Liberal League is a threat level of 3. The Defenders of the Flag is a threat level of 2. And the Rural Alliance is a threat level of 1. We have 13 political capital to spend. We could invest in intelligence services. Security services are an essential tool in the fight against organized crime and terrorism. Good, reliable intelligence can be difficult and expensive to obtain, and in many cases, the methods employed can be unpopular with liberals and human rights advocates. This is 3% popular with the vote. We are concerned about several terrorist groups as well as organized crime. Right now, we have a sizable spy agency. We will invest 2 political capital. We'll apply the changes. We now have 11 political capital to spend. Alcohol tax. Medically, there is a clear case for the government to tax alcohol in order to discourage consumption because of its negative effects on health and its possible links to social breakdown. On the other hand, those who drink socially see the government benefiting from such a tax to be hypocritical. This is not popular with the vote at all. We're going to spend 3 political capital to increase the alcohol tax to 75%. We will apply the changes. We have a political capital to spend. Stem cell research. Stem cell is a primitive type of cell that can be developed into most types of cells found in the human body. Some scientists claim that stem cell research offers great hope for curing diseases such as diabetes and multiple sclerosis. However, because stem cells are taken from discarded human embryos, many pro-life and religious groups oppose their usage. We are the leader of the Holy Justice Alliance. We will invest 3 political capital to lower this. This will save the government some money. We will apply the changes. We have 5 political capital to spend. Community policing. Working with the community rather than attempting to control it. Community policing encourages the police to better understand the needs of the local community, especially in areas with ethnic minorities. Critics see this as expensive waste of money, which could be spent on more direct methods to cut crime. This is 100% popular with the vote. We do have organized crime on our hands. We do have antisocial behavior. This will lower antisocial behavior. This will lower racial tension. This will lower crime. This will lower unemployment. This will lower violent crime, but we will increase this to high to lower our antisocial behavior, our crime in general, and our violent crime. We will apply the changes. We have 4 political capital to spend. Respiratory disease, asthma, and other lung diseases are serious problems amongst our citizens. Not only does this obviously severely impact their quality of life, but is also reducing our productivity and filling our hospital beds. Poor air quality, possibly caused by factory pollutants and car fumes, together with smoking, are the likely causes. Pollution, without enough measures in place to regulate what gets pumped into our air, we ended up with high levels of pollution. This affects our health levels and quality of life. Not surprisingly, environmentalists are especially upset. Pollution controls, restrictions on what chemicals and emissions can be released into the atmosphere. Controls reduce pollution and increase health, possibly at the cost of economic competitiveness. This is 10% popular with the vote, but I am concerned about respiratory disease. Right now we have government targets. We will use 2 political capital to increase this to restrictions and fine. We will apply the changes. We have 2 political capital to spend. We're still having issues with water shortage. Desalination plants. Desalination plants are a way to make water suitable for human consumption using seawater as an input. Although expensive and energy intensive, it is a solution to water shortage where other methods to prevent shortage have failed or are insufficient or unpopular. This is 50% popular with the vote. We will use 1 political capital to increase this to maximum. We will apply the changes. We have 1 political capital to spend. Tobacco awareness campaign. Governments have long known the terrible harm that smoking does to its citizens, but getting them to kick the habit is harder than it sounds. A trade-off has to be made between reducing the impact on the nation's health services versus any tax revenue that smoking brings in. This is 50% popular with the vote. We will use our last political capital to increase this to medium. We will apply the changes. We have 0 political capital to spend, and thus we are at the end of our 3rd term of our 1st year as Prime Minister of Australia. Let's hit that button. We will now be entering the 4th term of our 1st year as Prime Minister of Australia. Let's see how we did. The GDP is down. Crime is up. Poverty is up. Water shortage. Meteorologists inform you that water supplies for your country are now under control. Food shortages. International aid is flooding into the country after an acute food shortage has left our citizens starving. Poor environmental conditions and compromised infrastructure have crushed our domestic production. Some people are suffering, so this injection of resources to fight hunger is most welcome. However, that our government needs such external support has been criticized by patriotic commentators. The patriots are unhappy at -12%. Poverty is increased at +10%. Crime is increased at +10%, and everyone is unhappy at -10%. Situation imminent. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation, tax evasion on our hands if we do not act soon. Budget report. There is a budget deficit of 14.78 billion Australian dollars. We need to reduce spending or raise taxes. Polls report. The polls do not look good. Our last poll put us at 0% of the vote in an election. Cabinet report. The loyalty of our ministers can best be described as loyal. Their effectiveness is generally considered to be adequate. Economic forecast. Good news. Global economy is doing well, and this is having a positive effect on our GDP. We have 12 political capital to spend. Let's take a look at our cabinet. Our law and order minister and our transportation minister are both very unhappy. Let us fire Zoe Colling. I'm going to hire Oscar Russell. Now our welfare minister is unhappy, and our transport minister is very unhappy. We're going to fire our transport minister, and we are going to hire Oliver James. He's with socialism parents, and we have been doing some things with parents. Now our welfare minister is unhappy. We'll fire her as well. I'm going to hire Tara Murray. I've been eyeballing her because of religious and capitalists, and we are the head of the Holy Justice Alliance. I would like to hire someone who is in favor of religion. We have 9 political capital to spend. We do need to address the food problem. Food stamps. Food stamps is a system where the state will issue vouchers or stamps to those citizens on low or no income to ensure they're able to afford food. Unlike giving straight cash benefits, food stamps can only be redeemed for uncooked food, preventing them from being used for unhealthy takeaway food. Supporters see food stamps as a valuable way to ensure nobody goes hungry no matter their income. Critics consider such a scheme patronizing and no more than papering over the cracks caused by free market failure and low wages. This is 100% popular with the vote. This would increase health. We are going to raise this in medium. We will apply the changes. We have 5 political capital to spend. Toll roads charge motorists to use specific roads, normally major highways. This is a great example of directly applying market forces by only charging those who use a particular route for construction and maintenance of that route. Motorists tend to see this as just another form of taxation, whereas commuters appreciate not being charged for roads they seldom use. This is 75% popular with the vote. This will bring some money into our government. We will use 3 political capital. We will apply the changes. We have 2 political capital to spend. City farms. Many people would love to buy fresh produce from farmers directly, but living in the city, this is often a hassle to drive out to the countryside. So why not bring some farmers to the cities directly? This program helps ambitious farmers to establish farms in and around cities so they can be closer to their customers, and it will get some city kids to consider a career in farming. This is 100% popular with the vote. We will use one political capital. This will help to lower the food price. This will help out the farmers. We will apply the changes. We have one political capital to spend. Community policing, or working with the community rather than attempting to control it. Community policing encourages the police to better understand the needs of local community, especially in areas with ethnic minorities. Critics see this as an expensive waste of money, which could be spent on more direct methods to cut crime. This is 100% popular with the vote. This will reduce our antisocial behavior. This will reduce our unemployment. This will reduce crime and violent crime. We will raise this and we will apply the changes. We have one political capital to spend. Pollution controls, restrictions on what chemicals and emissions can be released into the atmosphere. Controls reduce pollution and increase health, possibly at the cost of economic competitiveness. This is 11% popular with the vote. We will use one political capital to increase our restrictions and fine. We will apply the changes. We have zero political capital to spend, and thus we are at the end of our 4th term of our first year as Prime Minister of Australia, and thus we're at the end of this episode. Thank you so much for stopping by our Crooked House. If you liked what you saw, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you want to follow our future episodes. It really helps us out. Have a great week. See you soon.